a question that is often asked nowadays is, because you do a lot of 3D animation, and right now there's a massive conversation around like AI and all that stuff. Do you feel that there's any possibility in the future where it somehow helps
It's
make
inevitable.
anime?
It's inevitable.
Or helps the production?
If you just look at the AI art like apps and the stuff they're able to create, it's kind of shitty and shady because they use other artists' work as reference, and using that work as reference, they create new things, or whatever you want it to make. And the AI art that was done of me, I paid $6 for, and it made me 100 images of myself, which is what I'm currently using for my display picture on not YouTube or Twitch, but Twitter. My Twitter and Discord are like a very professional version of myself. I think it looks amazing. I think it's very unfortunate, and it sucks for the artists that would have charged $40, $50 for that work, because I think they're going to be losing out on a lot of work. And I feel bad for it, and I'm not supporting AI art, or like I'm not in full support of it. I just wanted to try out the app once. But at the same time, it's just a sad reality of life. As technology improves, humans get replaced. And I feel bad, and I don't want to be like, let's go AI art, but it's just a sad inevitability. And I think the same thing is going to happen to anime, which sucks because we already have so many anime, and AI art will make it a lot more efficient. So I think there's going to be a lot more anime coming out once it's mastered or starts to get implemented. The problem is there's so many anime that feel soulless. They feel like the characters are bland, and there's just like a lack of, it's just like input stereotype here, input cool, cute looking girl here, input this. It feels like a robot's already making some of these shows, and the lack of like depth to some of these characters, whether it's their personality, the way they speak, their backstories, the way they look, etc. The lack of depth sometimes makes it hard to get invested in a series, and I feel like that could easily happen with AI art. The only cool thing is, what if you could replicate things that work, right? There are so many shows like One Piece that you fall in love with the characters. There's shows that are deep and amazing and amazingly written, like Berserk. What if AI could generate the formula that made that work and replicate it? Because I feel like that's what humans are trying to do right now. What humans are trying to do is they see what worked. Isekai, fantasy, power systems, cool moments and powers and magic and blah, blah, blah. They see what worked a couple times and they try to replicate it to get that quick buck. But more than half the time, majority of the time, it falls short and doesn't have the depth and actual realism, and it doesn't get to the height that what they're trying to copy reaches. So many could say that AI will be more efficient and may lack that human touch, but it feels like it's already lacking that human touch. So maybe what we need is AI to come in and find the formula, the actual formula that made previous shows work, and apply it to new shows. I think there's some real possibility here. Maybe not at first, maybe not within the next 10 years, but I think in general, I think AI technology at the end of the day, when used properly, can absolutely help every industry.
Production aspect in any form.
Or could it be seen as perhaps a detriment to the current model that 3D studios might have?
I mean, there's many issues revolving AI. There's the morale issue, there's the legal issue, and I can't even specify which issue they have right now.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Many issues.
There's a lot of issues. Yeah.
I mean, unless we're able to feel comfortable with that, we're not going to utilize it as a tool. I mean, everything eventually is a tool for us.
Yeah.
But without that issue solved, we can't really use it.
Yeah, because like, what is the general vibe around AI in like the Japanese animation industry right now? Because we have a vibe from Twitter. Well, you know that.
I mean, that's
Twitter's vibe is always bad.
Yeah.
that's the
Fuck Twitter.
thing I actually know, because
Oh, really?
I don't interact with the rest of the industry anymore.
Oh, okay.
Because to us, it's about how can we make ourselves better.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I mean, using other part of the industry is not really a reference.
Don't have enough time to care about the rest of the industry. It's like, we're just here to make bangers, damn it.
I mean, it sounds selfish, but I mean, it's our problems that we're facing right now.
Of course, yeah. You got
So
to.
how do I solve our problems, not
Yeah.
other people's
Yeah.
problems?
No, definitely.
Has this conversation cropped up in Studio Orange at all? Like the conversation of AI?
We always have the conversation, but right now is not yet.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
maybe in the future if things settle, but not yet.
Right.
I guess because there's always like, softwares that have like smart tools, right? Like there's some things that'll, you can tell it, hey, I mean, like in a weird way, I guess like fill on paint, right? Like you
Yeah.
just fill the whole thing. It's
Yeah.
like in between all, it's like, I guess there's always that line that's kind of difficult with some tools that make doing certain kind of things in animation or whatever easier
Nullified Maximum. Thanks for the follow, brother. Appreciate you.
that would technically be classed as AI, but aren't, I guess, morally using the whole take
Yeah.
everyone's fucking input and then blurt something out. I
Yeah.
suppose it's kind of like getting that balance of tools that are useful and are made ethically between the whole, let's make an anime for me.
Yeah,
that's
it's like
not-
to what point is it morally right to automate the process?
Yeah.
Right, where it's
Right
like if
now-
it's too automated, then is it even
It's
a
not so
person
automation,
making
it's more so
anyone.
like how is that automation being done?
Right,
Like,
right.
What is it learning from? What is it maybe even stealing from? Right.
Yeah.
I guess that's the moral quandary of it all.
I mean, right now, I mean, we develop our own tools.
Oh,
so
wow,
I
really?
mean, not AI tools, just tools.
Yeah,
So I mean, we have
experience
experience of 10, then we make a tool, then that will create us a equivalent of experience of 3. So we hand it off to our new grads, then use that, then they instantly start out from 3. So
okay,
that's
okay.
our way of thinking.
What,
But
do you mind elaborating on what tools that you have?
so I mean,
made in-house?
one would be the automorph face. So one of the things is that CG and hand drawn, the major difference is that CG is 3-dimensional, hand
Yes.
drawn is not.
Yes.
It might look 3-dimensional, but the comfort level doesn't have to be 3-dimensional to create comfort. So a lot of the
Right.
manga is actually not 3-dimensional. It looks realistic,
Yeah.
but it's not 3-dimensional.
Yeah.
Mm.
Because like I guess there's always like the challenge of having a 3D model is great, but making sure that it looks good on camera, I guess, which is a whole-
Two-dimensional.
which is a 2-dimensional thing, and you had to create a specific tool just
Yeah.
for that.
So
Is it
we have
bad
a-
I zoned out so hard? I've just been thinking about the possibilities of AI art in anime.
A tool called automorph where we point the camera to a character and
Like, what if you just genuinely looked at like the top 100 anime characters of all time? What made them good? Like, we could analyze it ourselves, but I'm imagining technology could probably make it, can replicate it, whether it's personality traits, art style, like, hair color, clothing color, like the actual like vibe the character is giving off, the voice actor, and they could just like, they wouldn't not the make the same character, but combine traits of like popular characters that are within a similar box. I feel like they would be able to create some really, really likable characters.
that model would
And then storyline wise, a lot of storylines, when you actually like bring it down to like basics, it would be limited. I don't know about that, man. I think there's nothing new under the sun, and everyone takes inspiration from everything else. If there's not, when there's over 5,000, 10,000, I don't know how many fucking anime have been released in history. Probably more than that, I would imagine. There's probably over like 50,000 anime that have been released. I truly believe there's nothing that hasn't been done, especially when you consider just like, if you start adding like manhwa and like just like American fiction, just novels and all these other things. I think there's nothing that hasn't been done, or there's nothing that you could present to me that I could not find. So I'm sure if I had enough time to research, I could find something that's similar. Nothing would be one-to-one, but it would be similar. So I think it's all about finding what works, what people like, being inspired from it, and making it your own. Would AI be able to do that? I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of possibilities. I'm kind of scared and excited at the same time.
just automatically warp. So it could just decide just completely warp this way to make sure that on the camera it looks really
shit.
natural. So
Yeah.
like sideways, manga characters will have 2 eyes. Where physically it's impossible because we're 9 degrees.
Yeah.
But in our automorph, it automatically warped it so that it looks
Oh
like
shit! Okay, okay.
So you're kind of playing around with, so you're morphing the face to play around with perspective.
Yes.
To
Yeah.
make it look more
So
natural.
I'm actually on the Trash Taste YouTube channel for highlights. So the clips are only about 15 minutes, which is a lot more digestible for me personally. For some reason, when I see like a 3-hour, 2.5-hour podcast, I just, unless I'm driving, I don't want to listen to it. especially on stream, but even off stream, it's just not me. It's like, I could watch anime. I could play a video game. Right? Podcasts are good for when I'm driving or I'm like doing other things and I want to listen to something, like keyword listen, and not be like super involved. If I have the time to be super involved, I usually rather do something else than listen to a podcast. But highlights are kind of fun to react to, especially like I've been watching Giguk for a really, really long time. I'm a huge fan of Garant. Sea-Dog, VA, I like played Apex with him. I'm actually like friends with him. Haven't talked to him in a long time. Super, super nice guy, though. I never really interacted with Joey, but the boys, I feel like watching them do a podcast together and reacting to like a short clip and giving my own opinions kind of feels like I'm there, kind of part of the podcast. I know I'm not, but there's something fun about that.
Really, like, I guess, two-dimensional, right?
Yeah.
So you guys developed that in-house?
In-house.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
Because as experience, we know how to do it by hand, but
Yeah.
we're physically changing the model every single shot. That's
So it's like kind of
too
like
much.
almost like presets a little bit. It's
Yeah.
like, okay,
Yeah.
if camera here, warp the face around.
Yeah.
Because have you seen the behind the scenes of like some of the JoJo openings?
I
That's
haven't
all?
actually, no.
Oh, because like there are some
Those are
shots
3D as well,
Yeah,
right?
those are 3D, and there are
That's
some
sick.
shots with some like the poses, and there's like been some screenshots of like what it looks like out of like the camera perspective, and like I remember seeing one where I think it's like Joseph's hand was like just like warped like ridiculously when it was doing like one of the pose. it looks so ridiculous when you just change the perspective
Yeah.
just a little bit, but on camera looks really cool.
Yeah, I guess that's one thing I wanted to ask is like when you guys wanted to, obviously, the main goal with Orange is to be like, all right, how do we make the 3D animation look as pristine and as comfortable for people who are more used to just watching 2D animation as possible? When it came to that, like obviously there's been like past and different studios who have done 3D animation with varying success. Have you ever like gone to like look at some of maybe the older shows that have used maybe a little more like primitive 3D to kind of like get a hint of like, okay, maybe if we work on this, then it won't end up like this show? Or like, do you use it as a reference to be like, okay, this is what not to do, so let's not do what they did in this show and instead try and fix that in our show?
It's most case like it's actually trial and error on our own thing.
Right.
So we
Right.
try it, start making it, and it doesn't work. Then we
See-
go back.
I don't want to criticize, but I think in a lot of industries this is a problem. At the end of the day, we're just people working our jobs, right? And then afterwards, we want to we make our money and we want to go live our lives. Like we work in an ideal world, you would love your job, and you would. How do I say this? You should be you should work to live, not live to work. And I think that's ideal, but what that creates is people that just want to put in the time, make a good enough product so that they could succeed and do well. But in reality, what ends up happening is we get stuck in our little bubbles. We get stuck in our little bubbles. It's very easy to get stuck in a bubble and not know what's going on around you. But there's so much you could learn, and there's so much you could do to improve by, obviously, I'm not just talking about him and like his industry. I'm talking about, there's so much you could do to improve if you were to like broaden your horizons and look at competitors and look at fellow coworkers and people that are doing similar stuff to you and kind of like work off of that. For example, YouTube. YouTube feels like all their entire company is living in a bubble like this, and all their departments are living in a bubble like this. They're all just doing their own thing. I'm going to do my 9 to 5 and go home. I don't care what anyone else is doing, and I'm going to do my own thing. And it's a little bit of communication, a little bit of just like opening your mind to like seeing what the other departments are doing will create fluidity, and I think it would improve so much. For example, anime. I feel like anime makes there's so many shows that make the same mistake over and over and over again. And it's like they come out with this garbage CGI, and it's like, didn't you see that other show get roasted and get like 3 stars on fucking Mal or whatever? It's like, why did you create something similar when that one failed? Maybe you didn't know that one failed. Maybe you're not looking at what other people are doing right and wrong. Maybe you're not looking at what the community thinks of your work. As long as it does well enough to make money, it's good. But I feel like that's an easy way to plateau. It's an easy way to become complacent and fall behind and not improve. I don't know.
Back to scratch
I'm just a
board,
dude who reacts to fucking content on YouTube after all.
do it again.
So you never look back at like old shows to be like, huh, that 3D sucks.
Not really.
Okay,
I mean,
that's good to know.
I mean, there's actually a lot of things to focus on. I mean, if they're doing,
I mean, that's the
people-
thing.
other
Everyone's so fucking busy. We're all busy. Non-stop.
people are doing
Sometimes
better,
you gotta take the time to smell the roses.
then it's more time. It's more better to use on analyzing that.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I
I
find
wanna
it really
hear that
interesting
again.
to use
Like old shows to be like, huh, that 3D sucks.
Not really.
Okay,
I mean,
that's good to know.
I mean, there's actually a lot of things to focus on. I mean, if they're doing, other people are doing better, then it's more time. It's more better to use on analyzing that.
Analyzing what people are doing that is working. That's true. If you see something be a hit success, I feel like right away they're like, let's copy and paste it. Not copy and paste it, but I feel like a lot of times when, like, for example, Sword Art Online comes out, it's like, let's make 19 shows like it, but not as good. Not even that Sword Art Online's that good. It's kind of like slightly above average. Hell yeah. But yeah, man, I think it's tough as well. Like, it's easier said than done to like look at like consumer input. So like the actual viewer, where are you gonna go? Twitter? Twitter is like a fucking cesspool. What are you gonna do? Look at the comments of like Crunchyroll? At the end of the day, I feel like the comments, the stuff, like when I post something, the replies are the people that actually take the time to reply are the outliers. It's the people that love it and the people that hate it. And if it is slightly worse, the people that hate it are really loud. And if it's a little bit slightly better than average, the people that love it are really loud. But realistically, that makes up like 20% of the population, while the other 80%... What up, Diego? How you doing, brother? The other 80% are kind of indifferent and just like somewhat enjoyed it. Oh, I liked it. Yeah. And they don't really say anything. So it's hard. Everyone rips on a show on Twitter. Doesn't mean the show is bad. And if everyone loves the show, doesn't mean it's good. So I guess they've been in the industry for so long that they know it's hard to listen to consumer input and maybe just look at the raw data, the numbers. Are people continuing to watch week after week on TV in Japan? Are people watching on Crunchyroll and other applications? Right? Because I feel like community feedback is often just an echo chamber of a small majority making things really loud, and you think it's actually like what the majority of people think when it's just not the reality.
I find it really interesting.
I must say, whenever I drink G Fuel with Code Briggs, I feel like I'm much more awake and alert and able to have like good conversations on stream. Versus sometimes when I'm on stream, I'm just like running on 2 brain cells, and I feel like I can't even form a sentence.
You use the word comfort when watching animation. It kind of makes sense why you would say the word comfort, but it seems very unusual to describe animation as being comfortable, right? But I suppose when we talk about 3D, where often the major complaint is that it looks weird.
The uncanniness, yeah.
Yeah.
So what is it that, like, why do some shows just not get that right? Like, what is the main thing that is the common mistake that happens when we're talking about 3D animation?
Because it's 3D.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 3D.
Wait, why is that bad?
It's not-
I don't
so,
get it.
I mean,
I feel
they're
like
trying to make
3D shouldn't be inherently bad, but maybe it's hard to get right.
look something that's 3D not 3D. So
Right.
that causes a comfort.
Ooh, because they're used to seeing 2D. 3D is always going to be jarring in comparison. I think that's true, especially when you have a series that's like mainly 2D or like 2D-ish, 2.5D, right? So if you have a series that's like 2.5D and then they hit you with 3D, it's a jarring comparison because there's only a little bit of CG, a little bit of 3D thrown in here. But what about an almost entirely 3D show? Are we comparing it to other anime? But like if we were to like just like focus in on the 3D show, what separates a good 3D show from a bad 3D show is what I want to know.
So it's
And-
kind of like an uncanny valley effect.
So it's a little bit different from the uncanny valley that Pixar and stuff ran into at first.
Right.
But since we're trying Toon Shade, then we run into a different uncanniness.
What's Toon Shade?
Toon Shade is basically the cell look, the
Right.
lines.
hand-drawn type of look
Right,
that we do in 3D.
Okay, so do you specifically try to, I guess, emulate the anime style? Do you want your shows to be seen like a 2D show, or kind of like something a bit different from like your typical 2D anime?
We start out, I mean, when we started doing animation, it's just whatever we were able to do at the time.
Yeah.
We started as a work for hire for other hand-drawn studios.
Right.
So we're required to create something that blends into their art style. So
Yeah,
that's
because-
where we started out.
Yeah, because you guys worked, co-worked on Black Bullet, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So like, what was the main role of Studio Orange in that show?
I can't really
Was it
remember
like backgrounds
much
and
of
stuff,
that.
or
There should be some enemies, I think, that appeared in Black Bullet that
Right.
were CG.
that
so I
was
think that's
CG?
something
Oh,
we did.
okay.
Yeah, it was before my time, so sorry.
Right. No, that's
Okay.
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 Yeah.
Do you do less of that work, that kind of work now, in terms of like working on other shows, in terms of like 3D CG elements, and now do you mostly focus on your own stuff?
Yeah, I mean, focusing on more our own stuff was our dream.
Okay.
So we mainly do that. But I mean,
That's
sometimes we
awesome.
have some open time. So in that
Okay.
times we work for hire for other studios still.
So I'm curious, was Hoseki no Kuni your first like fully Studio Orange produced show?
Yes.
Okay. How did that come about? Was that
So
when you were working there?
it was actually how the project started was before any producer existed at Orange.
Oh, okay.
It was the producer for Beastars and Trigun who wanted to do Land Illustrious at Orange.
right.
And then my partner Waki was called in from Studio Chizu, who did like Hosoda Mamoru's movie.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So he's the first producer to exist in Orange.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
And I kind of like it must have been, I guess, daunting to be like, yeah, we're just gonna do a 3D produced anime now. We've never
Especially when
never
like
done this
Hoseki no
before.
Kuni came out, and I think it was at like the peak of the 3D anime equals bad stigma, right? And then all of a sudden you have a fully 3D anime, Land of the Lustrous, which at the time had a very dedicated like manga fan base as well, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure like did you guys like get any initial backlash when it first came out, or were people like pleasantly surprised about it?
How did
I
you?
don't think no one really expected anything until it came out.
Right.
Yeah,
'Cause
how
it came out suddenly. So
Yeah. How did you convince the producers to be like, yeah, okay, trust us, trust us. we haven't got anything to prove ourselves, but trust
Our
us.
resume is practically empty, but we can do it.
actually, we did some character animation before Land Illustrious, but not as a
Right.
non-work for hire.
Right.
Okay.
right.
Did you have to like? Because I guess like the first thing that comes to mind is I remember like I saw a documentary of when Jurassic Park was being made. There was a conversation about whether we should do these dinosaurs in stop motion or in 3D, and the VFX company had to make like just a showcase of what they could do. Did Studio Orange need to do something similar as well going into
That's
it?
it.
I mean,
Interesting.
from the start was that it was already decided that they wanted to do it in 3D.
Right.
And they wanted to do Land Illustrious at Orange. So the producer's job is like figure it out.
That's rough, bro.
We have this daunting task for you. Figure your shit
We decided this. Good luck.
out. Like what the fuck?
I compared to, I mean, I guess 2D anime has something kind of similar, where I imagine that with technology improving, it makes it easier. Was there like big leaps at all in the past, like since Land of the Lustrous, that have kind of made it easier or made production smoother?
What we've done in the past is a lot easier because we put it into tools.
Right.
But because of that time that we have, we're challenging new stuff. It's never easy for any
Right.
shows.
Yeah, I've noticed like it feels like to me at least from every show you guys have produced, you've always stepped up in some different ways.
Yeah.
So even if you made a banger show already, you're like, how do we do this better? How do we do this better?
Yeah, because I didn't think you guys could top Beastars, and you did.
Oh,
Like,
shit.
it
They
was-
did
it was
Beastars.
nuts.
I think
Like-
Beastars is quite well done.
God,
Yeah.
Episode. I don't even want to know.
I know some
how
people
long-
complained about like the 3D CGI-ish looking things in certain parts, but I thought it was very well done.
long episode 12.
Oh my
God. Trigun took to
I
produce
haven't
because
seen it.
That last fight scene, episode 12.
Oh, the new Trigun? Was not a fan of how that one looked, to be honest. But maybe it's just because it's jarring compared to the OG, and I'm a fan of the OG.
Is nuts.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
also just feel like episode 1 was adapted better in the OG. Like, it was funnier, it was more ridiculous. And his character, I don't know. I wasn't feeling the first episode of Trigun for the new one, so I just didn't continue.
I'll go and watch it. I'm
Actually
sorry.
insane.